Hello everybody, it's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. We've reached another Friday, so of course I have another Film Rec Friday ready for everybody out there. This week, though, we are going to do things a little bit differently. I'm actually super duper excited to announce that Kanopy recently revealed that they've made a deal with the Warner Brothers Picture Studio, which means that we've actually now got access to an even more broad selection of films. I mean, Warner Brothers catalog is ridiculous. We've got blockbusters in there, comedy classics. We've got favorites from recent years within like drama, comedy, action. I mean, it's a huge, huge, huge catalog of movies. Kanopy will regularly be adding Warner Brothers Pictures to the roster of films available. I'll put a link below that links to all of the Warner Brothers Pictures that are currently on the site, but make sure you periodically check that link because you're going to see more and more and more content populated on that page. As usual, I will make sure that I have timestamp links to any film that I mention in this video. So yeah, today we are just going to talk about a handful of films that I really, really love that are now available on Kanopy, all of which are Warner Brothers properties. I've tried to select movies that have broad appeal, some comedies, some dramas, nothing within, a really niche market, but I hope that one of these will definitely appeal to you. And if nothing else, I hope this spurs you to go through and search for yourself and see what new titles might be of interest to you. As always, anything recommended is available to you totally for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin Library Card. As mentioned, these are all Kanopy titles, so you'll just be able to find them on there. And so with no further ado, I'm going to jump right in to these Kanopy recs. Okay, so my very first recommendation is for one of my all-time favorite films, and that is the movie Waiting for Guffman. Now, Waiting for Guffman is sort of the quintessential example of a mockumentary film. So if you liked, say, This Is Spinal Tap, if you enjoyed Best in Show, A Mighty Wind for your consideration, any of those movies, this one is going to be right up your alley. It also happens to star a very similar team, both in front of and behind the camera. And it's that perfect blend of ensemble cast chemistry and improv comedy genius. It's such a good movie. So anyway, Waiting for Guffman sort of takes place in this teeny town called Blaine, Missouri. It's just about to celebrate its sesquicentennial, and there's this odd little citizen in town. His name is Corky St. Clair, and he's essentially been hired to create this musical play about the town of Blaine and Blaine's history. And it's really, if you've ever done small town community theater, if you've ever dealt with small town celebrations, it definitely grabs in on a lot of the little dramas that happen within those kinds of things. And of course, it's a parody and satire of that sort of thing, but it rings kind of perfectly true at the same time. I mean, there's so many things that will make you laugh out loud. You've got a phenomenal cast: Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, the late great Fred Willard. You have Parker Posey, who is incredible in everything she does. And of course, you have Christopher Guest, who's the man behind most of these mockumentaries I've mentioned. He also plays Nigel in This Is Spinal Tap. He's the one who sort of leads this group. He also is playing the writer slash artistic genius, Corky St. Clair. Add to the drama the fact that Corky finds out that Mort Guffman, this Broadway theater agent, is going to come to Blaine to see the production. There's a lot to unravel there, but this knowledge that this big shot is coming to town leads to all kinds of other like antics and ridiculousness, and it's just such an enjoyable, incredibly enjoyable hour and a half. I mean, there's so many moments that will make you cringe but laugh at the same time, and that's sort of the whole vibe. There's a level of realism that's hidden underneath the ridiculousness that makes it super duper relatable. And I think we get that sort of secondhand embarrassment anytime we watch things like that. But it's just such a funny movie. There are musical elements in this that, I mean, this is no West Side Story, but it is fun, and the songs are catchy, and they'll stay in your head forever. It's crazy how often I find myself humming some of these tunes. But yeah, it's just absolutely fantastic, and all of the acting is really spot on. They all seem to be very comfortable with having that level, knowing what level of ridiculousness to bring, because I find things like that so challenging, to go just to the point of over the top but never going past it, or you never necessarily feel like, oh, they're putting on a show. It feels like legit just really ridiculous human beings being part of this, and it's so enjoyable. That's what I can't ever get over, how much I love watching this movie. So yeah, if you have ever been a part of small town theater, if you enjoy mockumentary films, if you are a fan of Christopher Guest and you just happened to miss Waiting for Guffman, you absolutely need to see it. It will leave you in tears from laughing so hard. And who doesn't love a weird, odd send-up of Waiting for Godot that sort of also sends up small town community theater and small towns in general? I mean, who doesn't? So yes, please, highly recommended. Waiting for Guffman, of course, available on Kanopy. Okay, my next recommendation is for a film called The World According to Garp. The World According to Garp is actually an adaptation of the similarly titled John Irving novel, and it tells the story of a somewhat quirky everyman. He's a writer slash small town wrestling coach. He leads like a pretty normal life most of the time. He does have these really interesting adventures slash misadventures, and I think it's those moments that juxtapose the ordinary with the extraordinary that really make this film particularly memorable. That and the absolutely unbelievable cast. You've got Robin Williams playing T.S. Garp, your main character. Glenn Close plays his mother, Jenny. You have John Lithgow playing another unforgettable character in here. I mean, you have people who are definitely such phenomenal actors. They normally play the title characters on their own, and you have them here supporting Robin Williams. It's just, they all have this uniquely perfect blend of chemistry. I really enjoy this movie. I think the storylines are unusual because it does cover quite a few different topics and themes. It is challenging in places. I have always loved Robin Williams's more dramatic movies. He was such an incredible performer and obviously so well known for his comedy, but I just think there was so much depth to his performances when he really focused on the drama, because he was always able to, layer things so well. In this, T.S. Garp is this multifaceted character, like every good main character should be. But when you add Williams's ability to bring lightness to darker themes, or to have that little edge of dark in the humor as well, it just becomes kind of film magic. um there are moments that will absolutely make you laugh in this. There are moments that very well could make you really cry. And he does such an incredible job of playing both sides of that. He, I have always been a huge fan of his acting, and I think um, this film is right up there as far as performances goes with any of his other really big lauded performances, say like Good Will Hunting or things like that. Um, you know, this is one of those movies, it is absolutely flawed. I definitely don't think that it's the perfect film, but I think those pockets of brilliant performance that you see with, like I said, those performers in particular, with Williams, with Close, with Lithgow, I think that makes this film absolutely one that you should watch, just because it really is incredible to watch them bouncing back and forth and off of one another and their abilities. Um, this one is really solid for anyone, like I mentioned, who is a big fan of Williams's dramatic performances, but it's great for people who like quirky, unusual, memoir styled fiction films. It's great for anybody who likes sort of like journeying aspect of stories. If you like films about small towns, if you like films about writers, if you like unusual experiences, that's another. It's like, I hate to use the word twee, but there is definitely a twee-ness about this movie. If you like other films that play around with the light and dark side of things, this is definitely one to check out. So again, The World According to Garp, starring Robin Williams, definitely on my recommend to be watched list. And now for something completely different, I highly recommend the science fiction neo-noir film Dark City. Now, this movie is from the 1990s, but I feel like it works just as well today as it did then. It stars an incredible cast. You've got Rufus Sewell, William Hurt, Kiefer Sutherland, and Jennifer Connelly, and just a really engrossing storyline. I will say that this film is trippy as all get out, but absolutely worth it. You're centered around a character named John Murdoch, who is having issues with his memory and what is actually reality. He has these fuzzy edges about what was from his actual past and what maybe he's just dreamed up. And as an audience member, you are caught in that same sort of haze. There's this sort of terrifying world and that they live in. There's no sun, and it's run by these sort of dark spectral-ish beings with telekinetic abilities. And he is always on the run from them, as well as from this detective that is hunting him down. We don't really know what for. We think it's probably related to some pretty grisly murders that have been going on in the city. And it's a game of cat and mouse on so many different levels, but it's an incomplete game because you don't really know what's going on. You're just following along with Murdoch as he's being chased and as he's trying to unravel the mystery of what brought him to this space that he's in right now. Like I mentioned, it is super trippy and it gets kind of confusing, but I think that's, part of the whole experience of the film. You aren't really supposed to know what's going on completely. You're always supposed to feel a little bit off kilter because that's the world and universe that Murdoch is inhabiting. He has no idea what's really going on. And you feel that. And there's so much tension and stress while you're watching it, but I love movies that are able to bring you to that point where the suspense and the concern is just so visceral. As I mentioned, that cast is ridiculous, and Sewell does such an incredible job of essentially embodying tension. Like, you are 100% with him as he's trying to escape these spectral beings. You are racing away from when this detective who's hunting him down gets super close to capturing him. You want to help him figure out what's going on with this mysterious figure Jennifer Connelly plays. It's just such an exciting film to watch. Um, the settings themselves, the production is so good. Um, like I mentioned, it is from the 90s, but I think there's this element of grit that was done so well in that particular period of film that just is perfect for a neo noir. I mean, there are elements of Blade Runner in this, and I can't give a film a better compliment than that. Like, I adore the movie Blade Runner. It's one of my favorite films ever. And Dark City definitely has a lot of that vibe without being a carbon copy or anything like that. Totally different kinds of stories, but it has that level of grime and grit that you can almost touch through. Like, I mean, like, you can feel that layer of ugh, you know what I mean? And I think that that's definitely something necessary to a movie like this. You need to be able to feel the setting as a character just as much as any of the individual people are. Um, if you enjoy noir films, if you enjoy the whole neo noir genre, if you like science fiction and mysteries, this is such a good mystery. I mean, there are twists and turns all over. There were many moments where I was pretty much swearing at my screen in shock, where I was like, what is going on? Um, if you enjoy films like that, you absolutely have to check out Dark City. It is so much fun and so interesting and just a really exceptional film. So again, Dark City, highly, highly, highly recommended. So, when I saw my next recommendation was suddenly available on Kanopy after the Warner Brothers deal, I may or may not have let out an audible squeal of glee, and that is for the film The Hudsucker Proxy. Now, The Hudsucker Proxy is a Joel and Ethan Coen film, so it's a dark, dark, dark comedy. And this one in particular happens to be all about big business, corporate greed, and all of the people who are doing these backdoor deals and machinations. And it is such a fun movie. It's also one of those fabulously unexpected Christmas movies, kind of like Die Hard. I watch it every single year. And I strongly urge you, as we're heading into the holiday season, to add it to your list as well. So you've got a fantastic cast in this. You have Tim Robbins, you've got Jennifer Jason Leigh, you've got Paul Newman playing a villain, and I don't know how many films I've actually seen him play a villain in, but he does such an incredible job here. You can tell he absolutely relishes every moment as this very greed, consumer driven guy. I love it. And your basic storyline is you've got this company that suddenly finds itself without its founder any longer. The board of directors are kind of at a loss, such a tizzy as to what to do when they come up with this plan to drive the company's stock so far down that they can then buy controlling interest and then have a much larger piece of the pie for themselves. Now, their plan involves this young man named Norville Barnes. He's just fresh out of the country from some small town in Indiana. He just graduated from this teeny tiny business school, and he has all of these big ideas, and he's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and they think he's a complete and total idiot. And I'm not saying that he's not. I am absolutely not saying that. You can draw your own conclusions as you watch the movie, but they bring him in expecting the stocks to plummet, and shock after shock just keeps on rolling, and things do not go the way that board planned. And so the film is all about everybody interacting and figuring out how to deal with the situation that they find themselves in. Of course, you've got Tim Robbins playing Norval Barnes, the young man who was a country bumpkin just moments ago and is suddenly this big shot leader of a massive company who happens to find this little streak of luck. What happens to him? What does corporate life do to this country boy? You've got Jennifer Jason Leigh playing a rather hard-nosed reporter. As I already mentioned, you have Paul Newman playing the villain, and I absolutely adore it. The character is just so oily and just perfect, and Paul Newman just does such an incredible job with it. So it feels very vintage, but with like a super contemporary feel. I there's just something about it that is absolutely impossible to look away from. And I adore the way that the Coen brothers are able to give, period pieces a really fresh contemporary feel, no matter what time period they're dealing with or what kinds of themes. So if you're a fan of Joel and Ethan Coen already, especially if you loved like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, things like that, you absolutely need to watch Hudsucker Proxy. You've got a phenomenal story. You've got a great cast. You have like humor blended with a little bit of drama. You've got quirky elements to it, a great storyline. Please check out Hudsucker Proxy. Of all the movies this week, this is the one that I'm giving my big push. So please make sure you check out Hudsucker Proxy, whether it be today, tomorrow, or Christmas time. Because again, lovely, unexpected Christmas movie. So yeah, Hudsucker Proxy, available now on Kanopy. Okay, my next recommended film is for the wonderfully weird little movie, Be Kind, Rewind. Be Kind, Rewind comes from the magical mind of writer-director Michel Gondry. He's the guy behind Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which I also absolutely adored and highly recommend, and stars Jack Black and Mos Def. Those two, I seriously wish these two would be in another movie together. I absolutely adore the chemistry they have. So in Be Kind, Rewind, you've got Mos Def, who works at this videotape store, and it's an actual VHS store. One day he suddenly starts noticing that all of his VHS tapes are blank. They just aren't playing. Customers come in and they're telling him, we couldn't make this work when we got home, only to discover that it's all the fault of Jack Black's character, who through circumstances ends up magnetizing himself. So all of these tapes that he was around are utterly destroyed. Mos Def is stuck in a store with nothing to rent, and they've got to figure something out. So what they do, rather than find a source to replace these tapes the normal way, is they decide to create their own ridiculous low-budget versions of the movies. So you've got the two of them acting out, say, for example, Ghostbusters, where Mos Def is in the lowest budget Slimer costume you could ever possibly imagine. And I mean low budget. Like, he's in a green plastic bag and, like, screaming. It's so ludicrous, but it's so exceptionally funny, too. Their dynamic together is just magical. I would never have guessed that the two of them would work so well together, but they just do. I mean, again, I would watch them in another movie in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even care what the story is about. I would know that I would enjoy it just because the two of them would team up again. So you've got the duo making these ridiculously low budget versions of these really famous films, and they discover the community really likes the movies. They rent them over and over. They're always looking for more, and so they make more and more and more of these low budget films, and pretty much start to get a bit of a reputation as these sort of weird film auteurs. And suddenly the government starts to get involved because, well, there are a lot of really quirky little situations going on. But needless to say, they end up in quite a precarious legal position in addition to everything else that's going on in this film. So if you're looking for something that will absolutely make you laugh out loud, something to watch with your friends, something that's perfect for those of you who like buddy films. If you enjoyed either of these two actors separately, Jack Black on his own obviously is really, really funny. But Mos Def, if you liked the way that he interacted with, say, Martin Freeman in Hitchhiker's Guide, make sure you check out Be Kind, Rewind. This movie like shows a different side to both of them uh, that I think comes out because of the way they play off of one another so well. So again, ridiculous but incredibly fun. Be Kind, Rewind. Definitely check it out. Okay, so that was my last recommendation for this week. If you have any Warner Brothers recommendations that you think we all need to be watching, please comment below. Let us know what they are. I am always looking for film recs. I love getting them. If you have any recommendations for future topics you'd like us to cover, please comment with those as well. I definitely love to get those. As always, thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully I will see you again next week. Bye-bye!